Hey everybody, welcome. Guess what? It's time to read more of the excellent folk tales, myths, legends, theology of the Native American tribes of the United States. And we are reading a story from the White River Sioux tribe, and it's titled Chief Roman Nose Loses His Medicine. Okay, exciting. The Lakota and the Shahyela. Okay, there's two tribes. The Sioux and the Cheyenne have been good friends for a long time. Often they have fought shoulder to shoulder. They fought the white soldiers on the Bozeman Road, which we Indians called the Thieves' Road because it was built to steal our land. They fought together on the Rosebud River, and the two tribes united to defeat Custer. We totally gotta read about that, about Custer and those campaigns. In the big battle of Little Bighorn, even now in a Baroom brawl, a Sioux will always come to the aid of a Cheyenne and vice versa. We Sioux will never forget what brave fighters the Cheyenne used to be. Over 100 years ago, the Cheyenne had a famous war chief whom the whites called Roman Nose. So a Cheyenne war chief named Roman Nose. He had the fierce, proud face of a hawk, and his deeds were legendary. He always rode into battle with a long war bonnet trailing behind him. It was thick with eagle feathers, and each stood for a brave deed a coup counted on the enemy. Roman Nose had a powerful war medicine, a magic stone he carried tied to his hair on the back of his head. That's quite heavy. I wonder how big it was, how they fastened it. Make you feel a little weighted. I used to put beads a lot in my hair. I had like a couple Viking beads that I used to put in my braids. I like the weight. It kind of makes you fix your posture. But I wonder how big this stone was. Before a fight, he sprinkled his war shirt with sacred gopher dust and painted his horse with hailstone patterns. All these things, especially the magic stone, made him bulletproof. Of course, he could be slain by a lance, a knife, or a tomahawk. Ooh, could you imagine a tomahawk? But not with a gun. And nobody ever got the better of Roman Nose in hand-to-hand combat. There was one thing about Roman Nose's medicine. He was not allowed to touch anything made of metal when eating. He had to use horn or wooden spoons and eat from wooden or earthenware bowls. His meat had to be cooked in a buffalo's pouch or a clay pot. A buffalo pouch. I wonder if they mean like just a leather bag and then you put it inside and cook it, or actually cooking inside of a buffalo, like stuffing a buffalo and then cooking it. I'm not sure. Not in a white man's iron kettle. Look at that! A clay pot versus the iron kettle, cast iron. I like both. I haven't got to make food in a clay pot, but they say it really makes the food taste so good. There was like a lot of Indian buffets make the tandoori chicken in a clay oven and cook other goat meat dishes in a clay pot with curry. Adds more depth to the dish, essentially. One day, Roman Nose received word of a battle going on between white soldiers and Cheyenne warriors. The fight had been swaying back and forth for over a day. "Come and help us, we need you," was the message. Roman Nose called his warriors together. They had a hasty meal, and Roman Nose forgot about the laws of his medicine. Using a metal spoon and a white man's steel knife, he ate buffalo meat cooked in an iron kettle. The white soldiers had made a fort on a sand-spit island in the middle of a river. They were shooting from behind, and they had a new type of rifle which was better and could shoot faster and farther than the Indians' arrows and old muzzard loaders. You know, there's a book called Gun German Steals that I have. I haven't really refreshed my memory on it. But this whole aspect of weapons and the human mode of the world, man, has really changed our entire landscape. you often have to wonder, how would the world look if we never invented such weapons, and if it really, damaged what manhood was, and actually kind of made humans more cowardly because you get to hide from a far distance at your enemy. The Cheyenne were hurling themselves against the soldiers in attack after attack, but the water in some spots came up to the saddles of their horses, and the river bottom was slippery. They could not ride up quickly on the enemy, and they faced murderous fire. Their attacks were repulsed, their losses heavy. Roman Nose prepared for the fight by putting on his finest clothes, war shirt and leggings. So look, they have his actual shirt for war. He painted his best horse with hailstone designs, and he tied the pebble which made him bulletproof into his hair at the back of his head. But an old warrior stepped up to him and said, "You have eaten from an iron kettle with a metal spoon and a steel knife. Your medicine is powerless. You must not fight today. Purify yourself for 4 days so that your medicine will be good again." Notice this essence of purification, right? Sticking to what your people made for you. Tradition. Religion. "But the fight is today, not in 4 days," said Roman Nose. "I must lead my warriors. I will die, but only the mountains and the rocks are forever." He put on his great war bonnet, sang his death song. They have a death song. And then charged. As he rode up to the white cottonwood breastwork, a bullet hit him in the chest. He fell from his horse. His body was immediately lifted by his warriors, and the Cheyenne retreated with their dead chief, to honor him in death, to give him a fitting burial, was more important than to continue the battle. Wow, so instead of leaving him dead on the field and continuing their battle, they decided, you know what, we gotta make sure we bury him in the right way. All night the soldiers in their fort could hear the Cheyennes' mourning songs. Mourning songs too, family. The keening of the women. They too knew that the great chief Roman Nose was dead. He had died as he had lived. He had shown that sometimes it is more important to act like a chief than to live to great old age. Wow. It is showing that sometimes it's more important to act like a chief than to live to a great old age, which is very unique because the Native Americans really value the elderly. If you notice in our past stories, they highlight the grandmother position quite frequently. Told by Jenny Leading Cloud at White River, Rosebud Indian Reservation, South Dakota, 1967, recorded by Richard Erdos. Wow. So the Lakota, Shahiela, the Sioux, and the Cheyenne defeating Custer, Battle of Little Bighorn, Magic Stone being tied to the hair, Roman Nose. Wow. It's quite fantastic when these stories highlight the differences between the cultures, right? Because it really kind of gives you an insight to their traditions and their ways of thinking. Singing a death song. Imagine the chief is so brave, he's singing his own death song. He's completing this ritual. And then the women also have their mourning songs. Quite unique. That's a powerful quote, though. It's more important to act like a chief. A chief. I like this story.